right, hi guys. I am back for another very illuminating video. So, just to give you guys a little insight into my story. Today's story was about me heading to my local courtroom. Well, I had a little traffic infraction and I have been doing my research. As you guys know, I do my deep dives and I learn so many different things. Believe me, knowledge is power, and I am after my power, my true power, my innate power, my royalty, my status, everything. We're all royal, but we have not actually realized this truth yet. Well, I went to the little courtroom and had some very interesting results. So I had gotten a ticket about 2 months ago. And from what I've learned, I'm going to show you guys in a minute. I break it down into you have to rescind any contract within 72 hours of receiving a contract and signing a contract. And that's all these citations are contracts. And they are for corporations. They're not for living beings. The difference between living beings and corporations is one is dead and one is living. They've deemed you dead upon your birth certificate and your parents signing you over to the state. They actually put it on your afterbirth and then created a financial banking system that we are now under the auspices of. Well, that whole truth is being revealed right now. That's why we're in this great war. It's part of why, anyway. So when you know this and you realize that they've been trading your bond, which is your birth certificate, all your life and making money off of you and profiting off of you and accessing your Sestacute trust, which is actually tied to your bond or birth certificate, that means that you're sitting here as a millionaire without access to your own trust. But your trust is tied to a straw man. What they call a straw man is a corporate entity. And that corporate entity is your all capital name, because corporations are usually deemed so with their all capital letter names. They're dead fictions. They are not entities that are living, and they can only do business with other dead fictions, and they can only go to court with each other dead fictions. But when it comes to living beings like you and I, with the blood flowing through our bodies and the breath coming in and out of our lungs, you have to deal with only living beings. So this is the difference. And I'm just doing a little educational video to point out this fact. So I am not a lawyer. I do not give legal advice. I do not do any kind of attorney's obligations. I'm not an attorney. I don't do that. What I do is I just share knowledge. I share information. This is entertainment, by the way. And if you use this entertainment, you truly have to know the ins and outs of everything that you do if you're actually going to utilize any of this information. So I claim no responsibility for anyone else's actions. I have taken this upon myself to learn some things about the actual law that is for living beings. And I am sharing some of that information of what I've found. And other people can go and do their own research. I'll leave all the links that you can go educate yourself on. And you go and you educate yourself and you use this at your own risk, because you must know the ins and outs of the words and terms that they use. And to do so, all you have to do is a little bit of research, learn some of these words, learn some of the terms, learn the lingo. When you learn the lingo, guess what? You're ready to play ball, because that's what you do on a court. You play ball on a court. So they use words, though, instead of swords, instead of balls, or Baal, earth. Okay, so here we have, I went to a meeting and I started taking some screenshots or just some photos of some of the things that were displayed upon the slideshow presentation. Okay, so first, here is the hierarchy for man, okay? You have God, the creator of all. Then you have man and woman operate under what's known as common law. Common law is the law of the land. And that law states that if you're going to go to court, you're going to court in a man versus man or woman versus woman, either way, scenario of trespass only, like destruction of property or trespass. This is man to man, living being to living being. That's how common law works. Then beneath that, you have government. And government was created to protect the property of man, right? So in that government, you have admiralty time law and all that, but they fall under this public courthouse thing with the judges' policy. It says policy, not police. Persons are legal fictions. This is what we must know about the lingo that they've been using to trick us. So if you deem yourself as an individual or a person, or there's some other terms too that I might not include in this because I'm just, not with that altogether right now. They are considered legal fictions, and they are deemed so in an all caps name. So when you make all capital letters, it throws you under the auspices of being a legal fiction. This is what they've done in trickery. So when you look at your utility bills, when you look at your driver's license, when you look at your birth certificate, anything, the IRS, they all put these all capital letters on your documents. Why? Because they are now saying that you are under the auspices of a corporation and that they can do business through your trust, which is your bond. And they dip into your trust all your life without your knowledge. So when you actually sign the paperwork for a mortgage, for example, the moment you put pen to paper, that mortgage is paid for. But guess what? You then go back and pay them 3 times the amount, because they're taking all of this in all of the interest rates. And also, if you're only paying so much per month and you're not, making 2 mortgage payments a month and try to catch up on some of this, you're going to be paying all your life. That's why it's called a mortgage, a death grip. And they've created this system of deception to profit from us and to, cause our great suffering. This is what the cult of Saturn does. It's the dark, deceptive cult that they're using all of this knowledge against us because we've never had this knowledge. We have to teach ourselves these things. So, as you can see, corporations actually fall beneath the public courthouses. They're way on the bottom, but they have tricked us. So here we go. What have they done? Man doesn't even exist in their laws, only persons to control. This is how their statutes, regulations, codes, and there's one other term, that's what they follow. We don't exist in this hierarchy of power, but they want us to, so they've actually distorted it all. Their distortion does not mean that we have to play ball, and we have to start standing in our power to take back the power and stand in our absolute God-given rights. That's all we're doing. In order to fight the system, you got to get back to this system. And to establish that, I'm about to show you. So that when you get a ticket, you get any kind of court summons. When they summon you from the dead, because you're a dead entity, they're going to summon you and bring you back from death, bring your ghost back, and you're going to be this fiction standing before them as a dead entity. That's what happens when you go into the admiralty time court. But we're going to go to common court. So I'm going to show you that process of what I did and what you can do to help yourself. Okay, so we've already established there's God's law, right? The law of common sense, or common law, which is truth. And it's also law of grammar. It's a higher law. So this is all, man rules this plane of existence that we call Earth. It was given to us. We are supposed to be taking care of it. We haven't been taking care of it because we've been tricked into all these deceptions of destroying our own land that we have to live in and take care of. So here we go. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to law, for it is the author and source of law. While sovereign powers are delegated to the government, sovereignty itself remains with the people. A government exercising power and control is opposed to the lawful constitutional governance, not lawfully entitled to recognition or supremacy, but which has nevertheless supplanted the government de jure, which is us. Our government is for the people, by the people. And a de facto government has stepped in and taken over. And this is what we have to fight right now. If you're actually going to choose to play this game, because if you do not, then you're playing their game and you're subject to their laws and their control. Now, it is happening all around us that people have joined forces to jump into this game and restore the de jure government. That's what this whole meeting was about that I went to a couple of months ago. And it's about educating the people, bringing them back in. All we have to do is begin assembling in our own county and our own state, and just join forces with this movement. And that's as simple as that. But jumping in means that you get an education, hands-on education. You actually are not subject to their instigations anymore. And it's very empowering. When you have this knowledge, you can walk into a courtroom and shut it down. That's what I did today, and that's what I'm going to teach you. So, unlawful, unconstitutional, and unjust. So that's what the de facto government has done. Now, a jural assembly, a group of people coming together with a common goal of holding public servants accountable to their constitutional oaths. That's all you have to do. You have to assemble in order to oversee some of these public servants that we have appointed to speak on behalf of ourselves. And this is all we have to do, is just regain control, because we let go of the reins of control. And so the de facto government took over and took control. Now, common law, it's common sense. Do no harm. Do not trespass on anyone's property. There must be an injured party. It cannot be the state. The state cannot be injured. There's no victim, then no crime. The goal is to restore the injured party and regain honor. That's if you have a man-on-man trespass. So that's all common law is about. And that's the only law that we are supposed to comply to. But this de facto government, again, has stepped in, created the Admiralty time law, and has been usurping our minds by trickery into thinking that we have to pay for these tickets and we have to pay for these crimes and we have to do all this stuff. It's a lie, and we have to stop it. So the common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land. The code, rules, regulations, policy, and statutes are not the law. And this was actually found in a court case, Self versus Ray. This is another court case. All codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only, not human or creators, in accordance with God's laws. All codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lacking due process. Know this, that any time you have an infraction, you get a ticket or anything like that, that it is for these corporate entities and not you. All laws, rules, and practices which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Here you go. I mean, these are just court cases that have actually been proven time and time again. And people are bringing them up. They're like, look, this has actually been stated over and over about how this law stands. So here's the jurisdiction. The land is the jurisdiction, common law, creator, and it has the 10 commandments. The air is the jurisdiction. This is what we're also entitled to. Ecclesiastical or canon law, trust law. Then we have the water, which is jurisdiction. Legal fiction, maritime admiralty jurisdiction, which is contract law. Now, man also has control of some of this stuff. So it is the law, land, air, water. We have the ability to be above it all. But we can never consider ourselves legal fictions like they have done to us with our birth certificate. Our God-given rights are unalienable rights, are the inherent, sovereign, natural rights that existed before the creation of the state, and which, being antecedent to and above the state, can never be taken away, diminished, altered, or levied by the state except by due process of law. Consequence of ignorance. If you do not know your rights, you effectively have none. And this is what they have been using. They've been using this knowing that people don't know the law. They don't know their own rights. And so they have been steamrolling them with lies. And all of these people who are out here perpetuating it, they just wanted to have a job. They just wanted to be a civil servant. Or maybe they just thought they would join, a police force to maybe have some of this power that they have been usurping and, overreaching with, just to get over on people, just to be able to run traffic lights and stuff. It's all, lies. And we need to rein these people back in because they've gotten out of control. with their egos and everything. They're overstepping their bounds, and we need to start reeling it back in. And it takes each one of us to join forces in order to do this. Essential elements of self-government. Self-government elements. The People's Assembly, number one. It determines the will of the people. So this is just getting together with your local people, living beings coming together to discuss things, even just to have lunch. And you're just talking about the things that need to be done, and you're learning some of the words and terms. Then you need the de jure grand jury to evaluate evidence and take action, and the militia to protect the people. This is what we used to have, but it has systematically been removed. The powers have been removed, but now is the time that people are taking the power back. U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, not democratic. There was never democratic government. People need to stop using that term because it does not serve the people. These are democrats, okay? Demon rats that have come into our government, and they are running amok, pooping all over everything like rats do, and chewing on things, just like rats. We got to get them out. U.S. Supreme Court in 1794, it is presumed that the juries are the best judges of facts. It is, on the other hand, presumed that the courts are the best judges of law. But still, both objects are within your power of decision. Now, we in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. This is what I will not do anymore. I am out here. I'm ready to step into my power, become the lioness, and actually roar back at these people who are trying to take my money by theft. These are thieves who have taken over our government. Full Republican structure. County Assembly elects the delegates and elect the statesmen. The grand jury, the trial jury, county officers, county government. Then the state assembly comes and elects representatives and senators. Grand jury, trial jury, state officers, state government, and then the National Assembly. And that is the federal government. I suspect that the federal government will be removed soon. Other groups. Now, these are groups to avoid. Just they were given out as a warning. Anna von Reitz, American States Assemblies. I would caution people, when you see some of this stuff, you want to be very careful of what you are actually associating yourself with. There's been people in these groups that have revealed themselves to be snakes in the grass. Just a warning. The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. So that's what's happening right now. And Plato was a brilliant mind. And if you want to know anything about justice and the government systems, just read some Plato. Very brilliant philosopher and also alchemist. 4 republics, Continental Congress of the United States, John Hancock. Now, I do suspect a lot of these people, there were some original people who were possibly good, but a lot of the people that came in actually came in and usurped our world, the world that was actually here already. They came in and established all this stuff and then said, oh, this is ours. And that's been the lie that we perpetuate. So I would be careful of, listening to any of these people, the different republics and whatever. I believe that there was probably something good here already, and they just came in and said, nah, Britain's going to take over this nation since it's doing its own thing. So they probably annihilated a bunch of people and then stated that Columbus discovered America and all these other lies. Okay, well, these are just the 4 republics. We're just going to get through that. We've got a bunch of counties in Georgia that have already assembled. So they really had gotten all of the ones that they needed. But this just shows you how these lands belonged to specific people once upon a time. At least this was the lands that they inhabited. They didn't actually own anything. Nobody does. You don't own the land. This is a great lie that we perpetuate. So we have to realize that we own nothing, that the land belongs to all peoples everywhere. And we've been sold this idea that we own something. Well, that's possession. And possession is making your mind think that you own something and you have to care for something, when absolutely it's shared. It's belongs to the people, all of it. We've just been in this great deception, and it needs to stop. Okay, so what is de jure authority? Who is the boss? Well, de facto authority is three branches of government. And you see, it's Roman civil law, and it falls upon the backs of the people, and the people carry the weight of the government. Executive, judicial, and legislative are fighting for power, while all the people have no authority and are given privileges that can be taken away on a whim. This is the lie that we follow. The de jure authority is five branches of government, we the people. You have grand juries, judicial, legislative, and executive. This is the General Assembly. We the people have all the authority from which we delegate small portions to the four branches who conduct the business of we the people. I'm sure people are going to start stepping up and taking back these positions of power. So why have we been suffering? It starts with you. Each one of us is responsible for this. Operated under the current de facto versus de jure government structure, operated under legal corporate law versus common law system, and all courts are not a court of justice and operate in admiralty, maritime, administrative jurisdiction. So they've been just taking our money. It's a bank. And all we've been doing is making that bank bigger. Well, that bank's about to explode. That whole system's coming down. And that's why we're seeing this great war. We're going to see the power return to the people because the people are rising. Most people can't see the wave, but I see it in the undercurrent of our lives. And I'm a part of all this different wave. I see it on many different levels. It's coming. It's a tidal wave, and it takes all of us joining forces to make this wave happen. The current status, states are assembling and giving notice to current government. We are. That's why in the different cases I've been to in the past year, I went to another court case where I got a ticket for speeding. There was no judge. There was no jury. There was nothing. They weren't even holding court. It's the most asinine thing. I went into the clerk's office. I got called to the clerk's office, tiny little town, and there was a lawyer standing in the vault with all the city records, and he was holding court. There was a little card table. I mean, it looked like something out of a movie, honestly. Here's this guy in a suit. He was some sort of attorney for the state or for the county, and he's holding my file because I saw all the red letters that I had written all over there saying no consent, no, I do not wish to contract with you and all this. And he's just standing there. And it's like, is this a joke? And am I in some other world? There's no judge. There's no jury. There's no courtroom. The little card table with two chairs, that was like a joke. This room was only 5 feet by maybe 10 feet long because it's the records room. It's like the vault. And he's standing there with my file and he goes, he's like, well, if you don't mind, I'm going to throw this out because the officer that gave you this citation no longer works here. So I'm going to throw it out. And I was like, okay, there you go. But that was weird. I was like, okay, that's weird. And then even today, when I go, I walk into the courtroom and I actually went up before they held court, they were asking if anybody wanted to pay their tickets, come on up and see the banker who is the clerk of court. She's a banker. And my friend brought me a W-9 so that I can present her with a W-9 to get all of the identification numbers and stuff. I needed the employer identification number from them so that I could alert the IRS if I had to pay for anything, or actually to put them on notice, basically, is what I was doing, because it's been said that these places don't pay taxes. So what do? You report them to the IRS since they don't pay taxes. And I got this woman to try to fill this, thing out, this whole form, this W-9. I'm like, oh, can you please fill this out for me because I need this for my tax records? And she's like, I'm not going to fill that out. I'm like, but I need this for my tax records and you're doing business right now. So, and since you're taking in money, I need that on file with my taxes so that I can report it to the IRS. And this woman's like, no, I don't sign that thing. She's the banker. She's supposed to, she's supposed to do all that stuff, but they don't pay taxes, remember? So she's like, oh, you got to take it over to the city office and get them to sign it. And I'm like, okay, well, fine. So I went and sat down amongst the people, and I'm looking around the people around me, and I'm like, hey, you guys have no idea. I want to go first. I want to go first because I'm about to educate this entire room about how court is actually done. And I said, none of these people sitting among me have to pay any of these fines. And people are looking at me like, whoa, okay, yeah, you go first. Well, of course, I'm that one. I'm the black sheep, but I'm wearing all white, so it's interesting. The woman who I had given the W-9 to, the clerk of court, she had gone back to the back room, and another woman had come out. and they had my file because apparently they went back there to figure out who I was. And she was standing with the bailiff, and they're looking dead at me, and I'm looking dead at them because I'm like, oh, let's go. Come on, please call my name. Let's go toe to toe. I've got something for you. And so I looked them dead in the eye. They looked at me. They called me up. And the first things out of my mouth, whenever you approach the stand, you basically begin stating, I do not consent to these proceedings. I do not consent to be surety for these proceedings. Well, as soon as I had gotten those two sentences out, she said, we're going to go ahead and reschedule your court date to another day. And I was like, well, I do not consent to these proceedings. She's like, well, you can just go to court, and if you don't go, you'll go to jail, but you can just go to court on your next date. And I was like, okay, then. So I was excused, and I asked them, I said, am I excused now? And they're like, yes, you can go. Well, before I left, of course, as I'm walking out of the courtroom, I looked around at everybody. I said, all of you people need to know what I know, because none of you need to sit here and pay these tickets and fines right now. And the bailiff was like, you need to keep going. You're disturbing the court. I was like, okay, copy. And I just walked right out of the door. Y'all have no idea. They did not want to see my performance in front of all of those unawakened souls, all the ones who are not illuminated. That's why I'm putting out this video. I want more people to know that once you got a little bit of knowledge, honey, you are on your way. You are going to be standing in your power. You're going to be empowered because it's going to feel really, really good that they can't do anything. You are untouchable at this point. So we're just going to keep moving along with what my little presentation is, because I've got some stuff to share with y'all. Again, I don't offer legal advice. I am not a legal entity. I am a living being, and I'm sharing knowledge with people. This knowledge you have to work with on your own, though. You cannot go and pay somebody for this knowledge. And if you do, you might be shammed, because I'm giving it for free. This is what I'm doing. And believe me, if I have another court date, I'll give you guys an update. I feel very strongly, though, that they will be just sending me a letter in the mail saying, have a nice day. They don't want to deal with me. That's how serious this is. This is standing in your rights. And we have the power to do that, each and every one of us. So please, by all means, if you need this information, send me an email. I'll send you everything I have, my whole script, but you have to educate yourself, because I can't do it for you. I can't go to court and represent you, and nothing like that. You're on your own. But again, you have to use all this information at your own risk. I do not offer legal advice or even lawful advice. This is educational purposes only. I'm stating that again and again and again, because I am not a lawyer, but I'm someone who's illuminated my own mind, and I'm stepping out in my own abilities and power. Okay, so your states are assembling. You got to get with your states, guys. Find out where they are. Join forces with them, learn some stuff, take back the power. 38 states is what's needed to convene as a states convention, 50 in total. They're already over the limit. I think that they're at 30 something. They may be at 38 states now. Yeah, it's really good. So here's the thing, national and educational calls at National Assembly, national-assembly.net, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. They do have a specific web browser thing that they use, the communication. It's not Zoom, but it's a different kind of conference call program that they use. Anyway, state intro business calls are weekly. So there's that. Then either we are part of the problem or we're part of the solution. We have a choice. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? So join forces. I'm imploring people, please stand in your power. We need you. We need everyone to step up and join this battle, because it's just about taking your power back and standing in your real power. And it will make you feel really amazing when you do this, because we're going to be putting our different municipalities on notice. Hey, look, we can't be railroaded anymore. So shut them down everywhere you go. Okay, so here we have the actual citation. This is what you do. This is a contract. That's all this is. This whole paper is a contract. to getting you to acquiesce that you are a corporate entity and you're ready to do business with them. So all you have to do, the moment that you get this, when they want you to sign, you sign under duress on there, okay? So you're being forced to sign this against your will. Do not ever put a signatory there. Don't put your name, don't put anything, just write under duress. That way they will know that this is you standing in your power. So you write on there as well, because you're going to send this back to them. You write on there, no contract. You are declining the contract with them. I do not accept this offer to contract. I do not consent to these proceedings under duress. See the original citation? Now for this one, I got someone to notarize it, stating that yes, they witnessed my John Hancock. My John Hancock is in purple, by the way. And you want to put the Universal Commercial Code that is 1-308. This retains your rights under the law, the lawful terms. So you write all these things and you mailed it back to them through the post office. You have to go to the post office and you have to do a registered mail. So you want to get a return receipt requested proving that you mailed this ticket back, because you don't want any room for them to say, we never received your ticket in the mail. You want to have proof that someone signed for it, and then you wait for a response. With this, sending this back, I never got a response. So what I had to do is the day before court, I called to check to see if my name was still on the docket. And yes, it was. So I had to attend. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I will go. So then, after all my research that I've done, I actually have a script that I came up with based on all the research and all the different websites that I've traversed and all the information that people have put online in regards to this kind of situation. So what you want to have is, when you go to court, you want to take your birth certificate, take an original certificate with you, because you might need it at some point. And then bring your birth certificate and a certified mail receipt, which is the green card. That's that return receipt requested card that is green, that gets returned to you once someone has signed in receiving your ticket. So this is proof of returning your ticket, which is the contract. And also bring photo images of your ticket and your letter with I do not consent to contract, no contract written on them. You're going to need this as proof of what you say, because you don't know what these people are capable of. So for the judge, if either party refuses to participate, these courts cannot become involved and the dispute is dead in the water. So they're trying to trick you into acquiescing that you are a corporate fiction. That's the whole game. This is why they'll duck and dodge and try to get you to do everything. They'll try to scare you with words and terms. And most of these people that are presented today, they're not judges, so they haven't been doing this for years to trick people. And so they're probably just going to throw stuff out or send you, like defer you to someone else, like I've been done. So the use of the term dead in the water is not a canard. These pseudo courts are unconstitutional courts of admiralty, the international law of the sea, and they brought it upon the land. The pseudo judges of these pseudo courts have no powers without the consent of both the plaintiff and the defendant. So they cannot hold court unless you acquiesce to their demands and their trickery. So in every case, the judge must determine that he has consent. This is why they're going to badger you and play ping pong with your mind. You do not sway from the script ever. So he's trying to determine that he has consent, personam, and subject matter jurisdiction before he can act or access the cesta Q trust. That's the whole goal. That's why you actually go to probate court and not municipal court or one of these other courts. Probate court is a court for trusts and anything to do with a trust. That's what they're using as a trick. So, however, if you do not wish to be presumed dead, suffering judgment, you must establish your living rights. Otherwise, you will simply have none. Very important information. Maxim of law: one who does not establish their rights has none. Believe me, I want my rights. I want to be able to stand in front of these people and say, you have no authority over me. So here's your script. This is the script that has been used purportedly in California. If you stick to these 4 sentences, you're done. You cannot be moved and they will throw you out. So here's what I did. The first thing I did when I walked up, I do not consent to these proceedings. And then my second one was, I do not consent to being surety for these proceedings. And the boy, they said, we're going to schedule you a different court date, because they did not want me educating the entire room of people that were waiting to pay their penance to this evil usurper overlord program that they have going on. So, but let's go through this again. I do not consent to these proceedings. And your second sentence is going to be, your offer to contract is not accepted. You're denouncing them. And all you have to do, that's as simple as it gets, because they're going to try to trick you into admitting that you're part of the Admiralty Time Court, but you are not. Third sentence is, I do not consent to being surety for this case in these proceedings. You can go look up all the words and terms for yourself. Go educate yourself on the true definitions of some of these words, because it's going to be important that you know and comprehend what you're actually speaking. The fourth sentence is, I demand that the bond be immediately brought forward so I can see who will indemnify me if I am damaged. Basically, there's an insurance policy, and they have to prove that they have this in case you're damaged. They don't want to be responsible for you being damaged, so they're going to throw you right out of their courtroom. And you repeat these 4 sentences as often as you need. And you do not acquiesce to them saying, but is your name Ellen King? Or is your name John Doe? Or whatever. You know, they're going to keep saying, are you John Doe? Are you John? And some will get belligerent with you. You just say, I do not consent to these proceedings, and you need to show me the bond that shows who's going to indemnify me if I'm damaged from these proceedings. This very, very important information, and learn what all this stuff means. You are never the defendant and always innocent in any game of court. I am a living being. This is your statement. You're claiming this. You are not a person. You're not an individual. If the judge ignores you, which some of them are belligerent, they'll try to railroad you and continues after you've repeated this several times, then state this: no contract and no consent was stated upon the contract of that's the ticket, and sent via certified mail. The Federal Truth in Lending Act provides that any party to a contract may rescind his consent from that contract within 3 business days or 72 hours of entering into such a contract. So as soon as they give it to you, within 72 hours, you have to send it back with all that I do not consent writing all over it. And it has to be in red or purple. You're a living being. You're stating so by writing in red, which is a symbol of blood, and you can write it in purple, signifying that you are royal and you cannot be touched. So if it continues, then state the following. You've got to pull out your birth certificate and respond by stating, I am making a special limited appearance on behalf of the defendant who is right here, and you hold up your birth certificate. As I understand this process, Judge, and understand is a term, you're standing under this process. I would say, as I comprehend this process, so I would even change this. I'm going to go ahead and change this. Sometimes these terms are not actual of what you should use. As I comprehend this process, Judge, the police officer has leveled a criminal charge with the clerk of court and against your trust, the trust, using, don't say your, just say against the trust, which is the bond, which is the birth certificate, using the all caps name of whatever that name is on the birth certificate, and that's on the ticket that appears on this birth certificate. The use of capital letters is dictated by the U.S. Printing Style Manual, which explains how to identify a corporation. The clerk, who is the administrator of the Sesta Trust, then appointed you, Judge, as the trustee for the trust. And since neither of you can be the beneficiary, that leaves me as the beneficiary. And therefore, you are my trustee. So, as my trustee, I instruct you to discharge this entire matter with prejudice and award the penalties for these crimes to be paid to me in compensation and any damages for my false arrest. This is serious business, y'all. We can really take some people down for this. You may also demand that the court produce the injured person, which they have to do, who has filed a verified complaint. Who was injured? Demand that they show you who was injured, because remember, common law states they have to present an injured party. No one's injured, which means their court is fake. If the judge continues at this point, just act confused and ask this question. Let me see if I comprehend, Your Honor. Has this court made a legal determination? Legal is important because legal is corporate. A legal determination that section 1-207, which is now, they've changed it. So now it's 1-308 and section 1-103 of the Uniform Commercial Code, which is the system of law you're operating under, are not valid law before this court. They are operating under UCC codes, which is the corporate code. And you're asking them, you're now stating that you are not performing underneath this code and you're not abiding by your own laws? Huh. Yeah, no, the law of trust dictates that an administrator, trustee, and beneficiary cannot serve two positions in a trust. So a trustee cannot be a beneficiary too. If the judge still doesn't listen to you because they're divergent about presenting a damaged party and just moves ahead with the case, then you will want to read the last sentence of that section 103-6, which states UCC 1-103.6 states the code cannot be read to preclude a common law section, which means it's beneath common law. Then tell the judge, Your Honor, I can sue you under the common law for violating my rights under the Uniform Commercial Code. I have a remedy under the UCC to reserve my rights under the common law. I have exercised the remedy, and now you must construe this statute in harmony with the common law. To be in harmony with the common law, you must come forth with the damaged party. Now, the trustee judge has no alternative but to honor your demands, but you have to get this right and act with confidence. Very important. Don't stammer or stutter. When they see that, they know that you don't know what you're really talking about. You really need to know this information well so that you can't be hoodwinked or confused by either of them. They may attempt to play some mind games with you if you display any doubt, stammer, or display a lack of confidence. Your signature is notification to the court and judge that you have accepted or consented to this offer to contract, which also grants the judge consent, personam, and subject matter jurisdiction over you and the case. You can cancel that contract, however, by rescinding your consent, which is what I did in the beginning with sending the ticket back. Now, to establish your living standing in court with the gentle approach. This is for people who are like, I don't really want to be combative with the judge. I don't want to be like bold like a lion. Let me just do this gentle approach. You know, this new age way of doing things. Here we go. Your Honor, I am a living being, and I humbly ask for your remedy. I'm gonna give y'all this story with a little sideways twist of Southern hospitality. UCC is a power of fine and penalty. Remedy means you are requesting to reserve your rights under common law. Common law supersedes admiralty law. Common law is the law of the land, and admiralty law is the law of the sea. Law equals land, air, and water. At this point, if you have behaved with honor and respect, you may be dismissed, but the judge is not out of options. They can leave the court and re-enter, now in a higher court, under canon admiralty time law. So you must establish your standing again, but in a higher manner. So then you say, Your Honor, I am a living being. The flesh lives and the blood flows. Your Honor, I humbly ask for cure and maintenance. This is admiralty maritime with the power of jail time. The judge may be totally freaked out at this point. If they don't dismiss you and decide to leave again, they come back as a priest, and you're now in the temple, and the court is under Talmudic law, which is very rare indeed because the judge is at the limit of his authority and vulnerable, so you must establish your living standing appropriately by addressing them as follows. Your Honor, I wish to establish that I am a living being. The flesh lives and the blood flows, and we are sovereign, and nothing stands between myself and the divine. Talmudic law with power of death. That's it, the game is over. You control the court and can dismiss the judge. Your Honor, you are dismissed from this courtroom. Yeah, so it's that easy, guys. Here's the Federal Truth in Lending Act again. It provides that any party to a contract may rescind his consent within 3 business days of entering into such a contract. So across the face of your citation, you should print or type in large print the following words. I do not accept this offer to contract, and I do not consent to these proceedings. And then you sign any documents in any part of your life this way. Use blue if you want to join the Admiralty time law, or purple for royalty. I personally use purple. Admiralty is the court and royalty represents your sovereignty. And then you sign without prejudice, and you put all of this underneath your signatory with UCC 1-308. That easy, guys. This is another way to declare that you may not be held responsible for this contract pursuant to the Uniform Commercial Code. Serve canceled citation back to the clerk of court along with a certificate of service by certified mail. Return receipt requested. This kills the citation, removes your consent, and removes the jurisdiction of their court, all at the same time. Note, a certificate of service is a letter that first identifies the citation and then defines how and when you return the document to the court and is signed. If not denied, it becomes a truth in commerce by tacit procuration. Remember to keep a copy of everything in case the clerk attempts to trash your response, which certainly will not happen with a certificate of service or if it is mailed back by the notary. The notary is actually a deputy secretary of state and is more powerful than the court clerk. Get that. I'll show y'all my document in a minute, my certificate of service document. If court officials expect someone to use this method, they will typically reschedule the case to the end of the day so that others will not see this. I actually got deferred to a different date, and I expect to get a letter in the mail that states I do not have to be in court and that my case will be cleared. If I do go to court, believe me, I'll let you guys know, because I'm sure it'll be a one-on-one in a back room somewhere. It's not going to be in front of a bunch of people because they do not want people educated. This is why they don't allow recording of these court cases. This is why they don't allow cell phones in court. They don't want you taking photos. They don't want you recording court cases, because if you educate yourself and others, guess what? Then they don't have power over you anymore. So this is what I'm exposing right here. What's happened to me, each case is going to be different. So you'll have to stand in your own power and learn all these things yourself. And yeah, it's the greatest thing you can do. Judges do not want this method known. Nobody does. None of these people that are running your town or any of the government systems want you to know anything about any of this stuff. So the bar attorneys will not and cannot do this for you because they work for the bar, which is the British Association. Do not let them distract and dissuade you, because if you agree to engage in any issue they attempt to raise, you are consenting to their jurisdiction. That's why you stand in the script and do not defer from it. You stand in your power. I do not consent, and repeat, repeat, repeat. You will lose if you start to have discussion with them, because that's their goal. They want to try to pull you away, pull your attention off of what you're stating. So you keep it very simple by sticking to this script. Don't add anything, nothing, add nothing. Say only the 4 sentences provided on the front of this, and if necessary, you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it again. Memorize all the 4 sentences and keep a copy too. So that way, when you get a look in there and you might be a little nervous or distracted, you have something to refer back to. Now for this, I highlighted my paper that I had. So I have all of these written with bold, just like this. They're highlighted so that I can just quickly go and get the materials. Okay, so certificate of service. I just went online and I pulled something up and wanted to go ahead and send this along with a citation. This is what you'll want to do, just certifying that this is what you've sent, letting them know. So a certificate of service just declares things. This letter certifies that on this date, I sent copies of the following documents, and you're just stating that you sent the traffic citation, the summons and accusation, City of Jackson Police, stop sign violation, to the opposing party. And I sent it via certified mail, return receipt request. Yeah, so I got the documents were addressed as follows: City of Jackson, Municipal Court, 625 West 3rd Street. And that's in Jackson, Georgia. Anyway, you put the date, you put who it is. I put the brackets it's for jurisdiction stuff. That's where you put your UCC and 1-308 and under penalty of perjury, all under there. Okay, continuing. So here's some more information I pulled off the internet. Firstly, you want to identify yourself as a woman or a man when entering the court. Do not acquiesce to the judge's question if you are your name, which is in all capital letters. Correct the statement by stating, yes, I was given a license by the provincial government. However, I was not operating with that license at the time, because when you have a license, it means that you have the authority to drive in a commercial manner. And people mostly want a license to be able to do so. You might work for Uber. You might, get paid to drive, like delivery something or whatever. Anyway, it's good to have one from time to time, but honestly, we don't have to have a license and we don't have to have a car tag. I'm not getting into all that myself personally right now. I'm just going to stand in my power, take a little bit at a time. The things are being done as we speak. Man was given full dominion over this realm by our Creator when we incarnated here, and we have the right to travel freely, unabridged, and uninhibited when we are traveling outside of commerce. Common law supersedes admiralty law, which is the laws of God, and the laws of God are the most supreme laws of the land. Common law does not operate under codes, rules, and regulations. A courthouse is a public venue. We could actually go and hang out at the courthouse. Men and women have the right to access the court to seek justice for the restoration of our property from a trespass that's occurred. It's that simple. Men and women are not bound by codes, rules, and regulations. Corporations are. This is just to review all this stuff. So the notion that the government overstands the people is a misconception and a fallacy that needs to be corrected. This is why I'm standing in my power, and I truly, truly encourage others to do so as well. A man cannot sue a police officer, firefighter, judge, garbage man, etc., because they are fictions. But you can sue a man. Should I request the radar calibration records to fight my speeding ticket? You can, if you want to. I tried to do that on the last thing, but it really doesn't, it's neither here nor there. So that one's just some basic stuff. Now, let's go over this a little bit with the all caps name. Just who or what is the all caps person, i.e. John Paul Jones, or, John Doe, or some other all capital letter corruption thereof? It is the entity the government created to take the place of the real being, i.e. the John Doe. The lawful Christian name of birthright has been replaced with the legal corporate name of deceit and fraud. If the lawful Christian name answers as the legal person, the two are recognized as being one and the same, which is why you don't respond to the judge if they say, "Are you this so-and-so?" It doesn't matter who it is, because right now there's no judges in the courtroom. So whoever's representing the judge and is being the determining factor for these different cases, those are the ones that are going to call your name and ask you, are you so-and-so? However, if the lawful being distinguishes himself or herself as a party other than the legal fiction, the two are separated. It's that simple. You basically say, I am a living being and I'm representing this other person, this defendant of this case. So a result of the federal bankruptcy was the creation of the United States, which was made part of the legal reorganization. The name of each state was also converted to its respective all caps legal person. Example, state of Delaware. It's all caps now. It's not lowercase, uppercase. These new legal persons were then used to create more legal persons, such as corporations, with all capital letters names as well. Once this was accomplished, the con began to pick up speed. All areas of government and all alleged courts of law are de facto color of law and right institutions. The Circuit Court of Wayne County, for example, and the U.S. District Court can recognize and deal only with other legal persons. This is why a lawful name is never entered into their records. The all caps legal person is used instead. Jurisdiction in such sham courts covers only other artificial persons. So they're operating under the color of law, but it is not the law. It's like, oh, look, I'm pretending to be, so it's like a chameleon. The proper jurisdiction for a lawful being is a constitutionally sanctioned common law venue court. Unfortunately, such jurisdiction was shelved in 1938 and is no longer available. The only courts today are statutory commercial tribunals collecting tribute or plunders, pillaging the people from the alleged creditors who think they have conquered the country on their way to ruling the world. This is what's happened. Admitting it's your name. If a court calls out a name which is fictitious and the accused answers to that name, even if he says his name isn't spelled that way, he is still admitting that it is his name. The body of the accused is present. What does it matter how it's spelled now? Remember, either it is your name or it is not your name. If it's not your name, don't answer to it, period. Here's what happens if you do. In this case, petitioner claims because his name is in all capital letters on the summons, he is not subject to the summons, completely without merit, patently frivolous, and will be rejected without expending any more of his court's resources. To argue that your name is spelled in all caps is wrong because then you're admitting it is your name. A name spelled in all caps is not your name, and to say it is your name gives jurisdiction to the court. Instead of saying, my name is spelled in all caps on your papers, one should say, my godly name does not appear on your papers. Okay, so there's people that have tried to sue the judge for violating civil rights by having his name printed in court documents in a way other than the appellation this crank prefers. Crank reacted by refusing to respond to prosecution's complaint, whereupon the judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. Suit against judge dismissed. In law, man and person are not exactly synonymous terms. That was been determined by another court ruling. Okay, so here we go. Here's a court case. Let's see. Cincinnati Enquirer reported that an Ohio court rejected that a defendant who had taken to identifying himself as Jack Edward Taylor with a semicolon after Edward, and trying to define that this is Jack Edward and this Taylor thing, this is his last name, was not the Jack Edward Taylor named in the court documents, especially since there were plenty of old letters and old other papers he had signed in the usual way and sometimes without his middle name. The verdict was rebutted on use of semicolon. This defendant, by his own act, showed himself to be a false witness by signing his name in other pieces of paper the same way that he himself said was not spelled. By signing his name in the fictitious name in all caps, he stood as surety in the flesh for the person the state created. He became one flesh and merged with a lie. The state used his own evidence against him. This is God's rod of correction for having a double mind. So remember, if a court yells out a name that sounds like your name and you know that the name called out is not your name because the court has spelled it in all cap letters, then do not answer to that fictitious name. I just go and say you do not consent. Never answer to your name or admit it's yours. This is what I've written. You are there to represent the person on the birth certificate. Bank wrote an email to me and the letter had upper lowercase and any style except for the dear part that typed in all caps. One notices these things after studying this area of the law. This is someone else's thing. This is something that I pulled off the internet. Of course, the reason the name appears in all caps is because it's addressed to the corporation that has a name identical to the combination of my given name and family name. It's not my name or corporation, and they're not writing to me. They are writing to the corporation and corporate entities since they themselves work for a corporation and only corporations can speak with other corporations. The name is printed in all cap letters, just like names on a tombstone. Since that's the name of a dead man, the first name, first last, is also dead, but no surprise because persons, of course, are not living. They are trusts, corporations, etc. Actually, the name on a tombstone may be noticed that the corporation has ceased to exist and is now in super probate. I say super probate because supposedly the name is in probate while the man associated with the name is still living. Now, a typical letter from a bank will have almost everything in upper and lower case, like words on this page, but the name will be in all caps. Here are two examples. The bank account for John Smith has been established, or Dear John Smith in bold and large letters. We are writing today. The name is typed in all caps. I have to say that I really like this topic because whether thou agrees with my interpretation of the meaning of all caps is secondary to my point that it is fundamentally odd that only the name is written in all caps. I like points that show something is odd so that people start to think something is amiss, and something is definitely amiss. So that's what I have for you today. Just a little example of what you can do to take your power back and to stop acquiescing to the demands of these corporations. Corporations are dead entities, they're legal fictions, and it says policy on the side of these vehicles. It does not say police, it says policy. And as long as we can start to bring this power back through the knowledge, then we can start standing in the light again and to bring back our beautiful world. But we have to step out and we have to do the work. You can't just sit idly by and accept the fact that, all this stuff's going to be done for you. I've stepped in, I'm starting the fight, and going to be a part of this whole revolution. So let's just join hands and arm together and march in the direction of our dreams, which is to get these oligarchs out of our lives and out of our pockets. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, and share. And again, I do not offer legal advice, or am I a lawyer or any attorney or anything of that manner. I do my own research. I do a lot of homework. I learn a lot of things and am self-educated. I just want to share information, just like a librarian would. If you go to the library, you can check out books. Well, here you go. Check out this video and tell me if you like it. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.